Okay, good evening. I'd like to call the order the city council meeting for January 8th. Mr. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Certainly. Councilmember Brown. Councilmember Carter.
Here.
Councilmember Garza.
Here.
Councilmember Hussein.
Here.
Councilmember Jackson. Councilmember Cost.
Here.
Councilmember Pelavanoglu. Councilmember Spatafor.
Present.
And Councilmember Brown is still not here? Okay, we are to the meditation and pledge of allegiance.
Okay, does anyone have somebody they would like to be remembered at this time? Okay, seeing none at this time, would you please rise for a moment of meditation, followed by the pledge of allegiance? Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we are to special ceremonies and presentations. We have a tribute in recognition of the Greater Lansing Area Holiday Commission, Martin Luther King Commission.
Councilman Brown.
If we could have the MLK Holiday Commission come up. Well, we're so grateful to have everyone here today. I will do my best to read this resolution today in this wonderful small font. Whereas the City of Lansing, through the Human Relations and Community Services Department, will be hosting the 44th Annual Memorial Observation of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. on January 11th, 2024. It starts with me shifting the culture climate through the study and practice of King nonviolence, and whereas this day should be a day of participation wherein all citizens contribute something positive to their community in keeping with Dr. King's lifelong work towards peace, justice, and equality. And it continues, and now therefore be it resolved that the City of Lansing City Council commends the Human Relations and Community Service Department on their 44th Annual Memorial Observance Day of Dr. Martin Luther King being held on January 11th, and encourages all residents. This seems like this is a different resolution. January 15th, and this is the Holiday Commission. So we will motion to approve that resolution.
Okay, we have a proper motion in place. Any questions or concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor, please state by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign.
Thank you. And would anyone like to speak?
Motion passes.
Thank you, Councilmember Brown, and to the mayor, Mayor Shore, Council President Garza, Vice President Hussein, and to the rest of council in the city of Lansing. We are happy to be here to be honored to be here in honor of our January 15th luncheon. We've been doing this a long time. We are the oldest and the largest in the country. We are very proud of that. We are a working commission, work throughout the year, not to just bring this luncheon to mid-Michigan, but also we work around the year to bring other programs to our region. And so we are excited to welcome Miss Ruby Bridges, who is the first African American student to integrate in Louisiana. So we're happy to have her. We're happy to have Donnie McClurkin back with us, a national gospel recording artist, to bring some song. And then we have our orchestra back. How big is that orchestra? 60, about 60 folks. And so we're happy to have them back too. Our chair, Elaine Hardy, could not be here due to another commitment, but I'm happy to have other commissioners behind me. And we just want to say thank you to this council, to the mayor, to the city, and as well as to Mid-Michigan that come out to support us. We thank our sponsors. And so I do also want to just introduce everyone who is behind me. Excuse me. We have our vice chair, Tristan Wright, our secretary, Kelly Ellsworth Etchison, our treasurer, Steve Japinga, and also commissioners, Dr. Lee June, Bob Hoffman, the Honorable Fonda Brewer, and Nicole Noah Williams, and Anthony Winston. I'm Tony Baltimore, and we are happy to be here with you, and we look forward to a packed and sold out luncheon on Monday. Doors open at 10:15, and the program will start at sharp. Ish. Yes, exactly. But we certainly thank you for this opportunity to speak before all of you today. Thank you and God bless.
It's good to see you, man. Yeah, thanks for all your work. Appreciate it.
Okay, and with that, we are to comments by council members and the city clerk.
Do we have any council member comments? All right, Councilman Cost.
Thank you, President Garza. And I apologize. I during our meditation, I wanted to mention the family of Ahmed Shakir, who owned the Falafel Time restaurant. He passed away. He was a wonderful member of our community, running that business. So if we could just keep his family in our thoughts during this difficult time, I'd appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you, Councilman Cost. Vice President Hussein.
Sure, just a couple announcements. I wanted to re-announce, as I did last week, the Southwest Action Group. That is a group that meets on the southwest side of the city to discuss Southwest Lansing issues, moving corridors for commercial districts forward, neighborhoods forward, and kind of doing that in a collective way where folks kind of coalesce around issues. So in any event, that is tomorrow, January 9th at 6 p.m. That'll take place at 2101 West Holmes. A lot of folks know that site as the South Side Community Coalition. Also, we will have our first Third Ward constituent contact meeting of 2024. That will take place this Saturday, January 13th, 10 to 12 noon. That takes place at 5825 Wise Road, also known as the Elfrida Schmidt Southside Community Center. And we meet right off the parking lot, back end off of Wise Road, and we meet in the Sandy Allen Room. And then on January 23rd, I'll try to announce this again on the 22nd, but we are going to have, our first Rejuvenating South Lansing meeting. So this is kind of a broader-based conversation about all things South Lansing, not Southwest Lansing specific. And so we encourage folks from all across South Lansing and beyond, folks that are just interested in the forward movement of South Lansing to attend. That meeting will take place on January 23rd at 6:30 p.m., again at 5825 Wise Road, the same spot that we actually have our constituent contact meetings at. And the featured speaker that night is actually Council President Jeremy Garza. So he'll talk a little bit about leadership, talk a little bit about some of the main things coming down the pike for City Council, some of the things to be on the lookout for, and ways for you to get involved. So we hope that folks consider attending. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Vice President Hussein. Any more comments by council? All right, see no further comments.
All right. Thank you, President Garza. Just want to, again, as we are diving headlong into election season, my office has been inundated with people returning their presidential primary ballot selection form. So if you have received that at home, we do need to get that back if you want to vote in the presidential primary. Michigan does have a separate Democratic and Republican ballot, so we can only send you one, so we do need that form back in order to issue you a ballot. And that was for folks on the permanent automatic mail ballot list. For everyone not on that list, today went to the out in the mail, so you should be getting it in the next couple of days, an invitation to get an absentee ballot, either just for this election or for any choice of elections, since we're having 4 this year, or to sign up for the permanent or for the automatic permanent mail ballot list. So lots of options, or it also has all of the information that you need to know if you want to vote early or if you want to vote at your precinct on election day. So the mailer that went out has a lot of valuable information for anyone who wants to vote however they want to vote. So I encourage folks to look that over and get the information out of it and vote in the way that best meets your wishes, desires, and needs. And with that, we are to community event announcements. If anyone in the audience has a community event, you can have up to 1 minute to tell us the details of your event.
Good evening. Registration is open for a Zoom presentation that the Friends of Lansing Historic Cemeteries is going to be hosting. It'll be on Thursday, January 25th at 6 p.m. And the topic is Tombstone Preservation, Restoration, and Symbology Explanations. So if you're at all interested in how to preserve a tombstone, how to restore a tombstone, or what the symbols on tombstones typically mean, the registration fee is $10, and there are links on our Facebook page at Lansing Cemeteries and also on our website at lansingsemfriends.org. So again, that's lansingsemfriends.org for a Zoom presentation Thursday, January 25th at 6 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you. More community event announcements?
Good evening. Just announcing an event that Councilman Brown already alluded to, 44th Annual Memorial Observation of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., January 11th to 2024, from 12 to 1, right here in the City Council chambers. Martin Luther King Jr. was one of the greatest socialist minds of the 20th century. And it was MLK who said, "It will probably be necessary for Israel to give up this conquered territory, because to hold on to it will only exacerbate tensions and deepen the bitterness." Thank you.
Thank you. Any other community events? Okay.
Hi, I actually have 2. So tomorrow night at the Fledge, a Place for Us Coalition is meeting. This is speaking about the Lansing Unhoused Crisis, as well as the Warming Center, which is also a handout I'm sending out. And then on Wednesday, we're going to be having the Run is Too Damn High Coalition meeting. Tomorrow, Tuesday, is from 7 to 8:30. On Wednesday, it is from 6 to 7:30. And then on January 31st, which I believe is a Wednesday, from 4 to 6 at the Fledge, is going to be For Our Futures Lansing Unhoused Crisis panel discussion, which some of you will be at. So thank you so much. Have a great
Okay, thank you. Seeing no other community events, I will announce that we are to the close of registration for public comment on legislative matters. Legislative matters includes the public hearings and items that council will be acting on tonight. So that's items 2 through 13 on the printed agenda. And that, again, that's the blue sheet. I did have 3 people sign on the blue sheet, but the topic that they put was ceasefire, which will be called, I'll just treat them as yellow sheets at the end. But if anyone wishes to address any of the items 2 through 13 on the agenda, we'll give you another minute to sign up in the back with Cassie, who is our elections intern and is filling in as our council intern for tonight. So thank you for being here, Cassie. So we'll give you about another minute to sign to jump up and grab Cassie if you want to speak on those items. And in the meantime, we are to the mayor's comments.
Mayor Shore.
All right, thank you. First, congratulations to you, Mr. President, on your election, and Mr. Vice President on your election. Congratulations to our two new council members. Excited to work with you, and to our two returning council members that were reelected. A few items. I want to congratulate the Old Newsboys, who had a very successful Lansing Spoof Journal. They're having a victory dinner now, so they understand why you all aren't there, because you're here. But I stopped by. This Saturday, we will be doing a meeting to discuss our budget and to hear from the public on things that they might like to see in the budget. It's going to conveniently be right after Councilman Adam Hussein's constituent contact at the Schmidt Center at noon. So folks that are there for Councilman Hussein's meeting can certainly stay and provide feedback, as can anyone else. It's already been mentioned, on Thursday, our HRCS is doing their annual MLK event at noon right here in this chamber. So we certainly welcome everyone for that. I want to share that we've had two recent facade improvement grants issued that have been completed. The Southside Community Center on the south side on Pleasant Grove and the Holmes area, and Golden Harvest Investments on Michigan Avenue. Both look great, and we're proud of that program. And then the next round opens on January 16th. So anybody that wants to have businesses apply for facade improvement, or property owners that for facade improvement on our corridors, January 16th is the date when the next one opens. Additionally, our Neighborhood Advisory Board and our Neighborhoods Department is doing workshops to help civic organizations, to assist our neighborhood organizations and civic organizations with getting grants. They did a workshop today at 5:30, which still may be going on. They'll be doing another one at noon as well. So we certainly invite any of our neighborhood organizations or civic organizations to come and see what they can do to help get grant dollars for their neighborhoods and organizations. And last but not least, we have provided to council, I've mentioned the council president, I would share this for the public because you all know it. We have provided with council today the acceptance of the budget dollars from the state. We have done very well over the last several months. Thank you to our state legislators. And we are sending to you for your consideration acceptance of the $100+ million in budget dollars from the state. So I look forward to seeing that move, and that's mostly what I've got.
Thank you, Mayor Shore.
Okay, we are to public comment on legislative matters, and that does include the following two public hearings. Agenda item 2, establishment of Neighborhood Enterprise Zone District number 25 Wheel District. And item number 3, Z10 2023, rezoning 512 East Miller Road from R3 Suburban Detached Residential to SC Suburban Commercial Zone.
Thank you. Councilman Brown.
Thank you so much, President Garza. Almost said President Wood. We have the establishment of the Neighborhood Enterprise Zone District, number 25 Wheel District. It looks like we have Mr. Hepler here, if you want to come down. Oh, and Chris Klein as well, please. Thank you, Chris Klein with the Lansing Economic Development Corporation, for being here. And so I'll let you have the floor.
All right, thank you very much. Council members, good evening and Happy New Year. So yes, the item that we're discussing today is the establishment of a new neighborhood enterprise zone. I did prepare a slide presentation to go over just what that is, because it's been actually almost exactly 15 years since the last neighborhood enterprise zone was established in the city of Lansing. So it's a good refreshment to us all what that is. Provided a presentation here. Also, as you mentioned, Councilmember Brown, have the the prospective developer for within the area for the district, Harry Hepler here as well. But just to clarify, it is just establishment of the district, and the certificates will come later. That'll make more sense once I dig into the presentation. But any questions prior to that? No? All right. I'm not sure if they'll bring it up on the screen, but I believe you have copies. So we'll go over what an NEZ is, the types of NEZs, and then the steps for establishing a district, and then the certificate.
Mr. Klein,
Yes.
could you pull that mic?
Oh, I'm very sorry.
Thank you.
Is that better? All right. And then we'll go over the benefits and then the potential development for that site. So an NEZ, the act for that 147 was in 1992 is when that was passed. There's been several iterations, changes to that over the years. And what it does is it encourages development of housing and not commercial like some of the other programs that we have. Many of you are familiar with OPRA, Obsolete Property Rehabilitation Act, and that's very similar, but this is strictly housing, residential housing is what this looks at. So it establishes a special tax rate, essentially a tax abatement for the designated areas with the certificate. So there's three types. There's a new facility, so developing new housing, a rehabilitative facility, and homestead facilities. And again, these each require two steps, the establishment of the zone and then approval of the certificate. And so for a new facility, it's a structure, a portion of a new structure that has its primary purpose being residential housing and consists of 1 to 2 units, one of which is or will be occupied by an owner as their principal residence. And then there's a special tax rate for that. It's 1/2 of the state average mills levied on owner-occupied or non-owner-occupied residential property. And then the second type is the rehabilitative facility. And that is an existing structure, just like you might think, with a portion of it being used for residential housing. And so the proposed improvements would bring that up to code. It would prepare that for occupancy standards for housing. And the rate for that, that's essentially a straight abatement where it freezes the current tax rates on the real property for that, for however many ever years of the certificate. And then finally, we have the homestead facility, and so that's an existing structure. It is residential housing of 1 to 2 units, and then one of those units being principal residence, owner-occupied. And so then this one is the 1/2 of the operating mills for the government unit and county, and then all the other total millage rates. So I stated the establishment of a zone, that's the first step. We do have, this would be the 25th zone within the city. There's been several established in the late 90s and then throughout the 2000s, but since then we haven't had any activity. And currently, those zones are still in place and active, but the folks taking advantage of that, very, very few currently. And so the establishment of the zone, essentially, seeking to establish that, we determine if it meets the needs of and the requirements of the statute. And so they have to contain at least 10 parcels. I believe this one has somewhere around 60 parcels included within it. And then there has to be written notice to all of the taxing units and to the city assessor. As part of that, we hold a public hearing, which we're here for tonight. And then the city council would approve the establishment of that. Once established, property owners can then go for a certificate, which would actually hold the value and would allow for that abatement. So put in a slide here showing the district as proposed, which essentially that is East Saginaw Street to the south, East Oakland Avenue to the north. We have North Pennsylvania Avenue to the east, and then the railroad tracks to the west. You might notice that it's a bit oddly shaped, and that's because there's 2 existing NEZ zones or NEZs within that block currently. So we have Pruden Wheel Factory, which is in the southwest corner. That's number 9, and then the North Pennsylvania Avenue corridor. That's number 5. those were already previously established. So in order to round out or square off that block, that's why it's shaped and includes the parcels in which it does. Is there any questions as of yet?
Yes, thank you, Chris. We have a question from Councilmember Brown.
Thank you, President Garza. Chris, you alluded to if you have, you said we have, excuse me, 24 districts, and then we've issued certificates, and then you alluded to after a period of time, I think you, like, the certificates run their course.
Correct.
So how many active certificates out of the districts are current, and then when it runs its course, what happens to the zone? The zone.
Yeah. So the first part of your question about the length of the certificate, you're correct. There is a certain term in which it's active, and I'll hit that in the next slide here with the certificate step. But essentially, once that expires, it goes back to its full taxable value. So it would be no longer abated for whatever calculation, whatever type of NEZ it is. So it would go back to its full value. For example, with the rehabbed, I believe they're 15 years, and they can get a bonus 2 years if it's a historical project.
So if that's the case, for example, it's been 15 years, and its full taxable value, does it still maintain as a district?
Yeah, so until it is no longer, I guess, removed by the state or the local government and rescinded, it would remain a district. But there's no value in it being a district. The certificate holds the value. So they wouldn't be able to, reapply or anything for it unless there was a new project that came about.
Okay.
And for the number of active, I believe there's somewhere around 3,400 parcels within the existing 24 zones from my math. And I think we're somewhere around 50 currently active certificates, so they've really dwindled down. And those are, I think, in only 2 or 3 zones. So again, it's been 15 years, so naturally we're about turned up for all of those, given the life of the certificate. So.
Okay, thank you. And then what happens if we approve the district but do not move forward with any certificates?
Nothing would occur. There wouldn't be any tax benefit to the developer.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yep. So the next slide, the second step in the process would be the certificate, and again, that's a future request, and we'll field applications as those are presented. And so the owner of the property would file the application. It would be processed by the city, again, holding a public hearing or bringing that before this body, and then resolving to approve that certificate for the given number of years. There is the state tax commission that the state does receive those once complete, and they file them. So. And then just a quick rundown of some of the benefits of an NEZ. It encourages the development of residential housing. Over the long run, it will increase tax revenue as the certificates expire. And then also certain portions of it, including the land value, is not abated. So as that grows in value, that would still be paid at its full rate. And then reducing public threats to public health through environmental contamination and remediation of that. And then attracting additional people to live within the city of Lansing, and then increasing adjacent property values. So the establishment of this zone was really prompted by Mr. Hepler and his proposal for rehabilitating and creating units within the existing Prudenwheel factory. And so that's what, again, brought us to this point. We had to, as you may recall, change the ordinance to allow for additional zones to be established. And so I'll pass it over to Mr. Hepler if you want to give a quick rundown of your project.
Sure. Things are coming along fairly nicely. From a private sector, the bank is very interested in this project, and with the NEZ being put in place. We're extremely enthused about the RAP program, which some of you may know about, but we were recipients of a $2 million grant from the state of Michigan to establish a solar array on the roof. Excuse me, I may be a little further away from the mic here. And also some battery storage. So what's going to be great about this particular development, they're all one bedrooms, about 450, 470 square feet. They're true one bedrooms. They're not efficiencies. The bedroom's not sitting in the middle of the living room or anything like that. But the tenants will be able to enjoy zero tax or zero utility bills. And that includes water, sewage, and there's no combustibles being used. We're working with the Board of Water and Light to make sure all the heating and HVAC systems are heat pumps. The washer and dryers are heat pumps. And low flow cartridges on the showers and that sort of thing. And then we have the benefit of having a nuclear fallout tunnel underneath this building that was built in 1955. This building was built for the Korean War to make gun shells. Motor Wheel was granted this particular contract with the government to make gun shells for a period of, I don't know, it's probably about 8 years. And they were required to put a nuclear fallout tunnel underneath this building to attain that government contract. That particular fallout tunnel is, at one time was a couple thousand feet long, but the parts that we're going to use is about 600 feet long, and we'll be able to store about 250,000 gallons of water from the roof. On a moderate rain, it takes about 5 minutes to fill that. It's a big roof, about 70,000 square feet. So all that water will be directed in there, and then there'll be a creek through the middle of it, with fish and koi fish in it. So it'll be, when you're inside a building, buildings are kind of set up as homes inside a building, but when you go in there, you'll see lemon trees and orange trees and palm trees and more tropical trees than we're used to seeing on the outside of our spaces. But because we have this historical canopy holding this solar array, we'll be able to commit to a 70-degree temperature and fairly high humidity and really feel like the outside is inside. So we're super excited about the fact that tenants will not have any question marks as to what their utilities are going to be every month. So we've talked to the board. Normally, utility companies only allow you to have about 110% of your power usage for a solar array. But we're lucky as a community. We have the Board of Water and Light, and they're very flexible. And they told us we could pretty much put as much solar as we wanted on the roof, and they were more willing to accept any additional power that we generated. So we believe there'll be zero utilities for the tenants. So again, we're extremely excited about that grant. We were lucky enough to get that and compete statewide. And I'm not aware of any other historical adaptive reuse project that has this in the country. I've researched it and not been able to find one. This very well may be one of the first ones in the country. So we're trying to achieve what's called a living building challenge, which is 16 leaves on a tree. The most difficult one is not to use combustibles or natural gas. So far, we've been able to do that with our engineering plans. So a lot of enthusiasm around it.
Great. Well, thank you. Do we have any questions, comments from council? Vice President Hussein.
I may have missed it. Mr. Klein, how many property owners are positioned in the district outside of Mr. Hepler?
Individual property owners?
I can probably answer that.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, on May Street, there's probably about, I count them as 20 homeowners on May Street that are inside this district. I'm enthused that they'll have the opportunity to add value to their home either through a sale and have that certificate available for a new buyer, or if those homeowners choose to, we'll help them, of course, in any way we can, apply for that certificate. Then they could invest in rehabilitating their home, meeting the standards, and saving on their property taxes for anywhere. If it's a historical structure, I think it would go to 17 years, non-historical 15. So about 20 homeowners.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have any other questions or comments? All right. Well, we really appreciate you being down here. Thank you very much. It sounds like a very exciting project. I'm looking forward
It is. Thank you.
fruition.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, Councilman Brown.
Thank you, President Garza. We have a rezoning 512
East Miller Road from R3 Suburban Detached Residential to SC Suburban Commercial. This was before us at Development and Planning on December 7th, Tony's Party Store, dealing with the home that's west on Miller. It's the same owner of the property's store owner, but there's a residential property, and they're looking to merge the property and expand to a gas station. Initially, the parcel was zoned this way, but when we went into form base, we made a error looking because there was a home on the property. They just changed it to residential, so we're looking to correct that to its original form. And I'm not sure if we have anybody here for the property owner. Nope.
All right, thank you, Councilman Brown.
Thank you.
Okay, then we are to the public comment portion. We have Jody Washington, followed by Amanda Castillo. And you have up to 3 minutes to speak on legislative matters.
Thank you, Jody Washington, Eastside. Congratulations, Jeremy. I think you're going to do a really good job. I was very excited that you were going to be president of this council. I'm just here to speak in support of the NEZ for the Wheel District. First of all, I want to say that I live in the neighborhood that has the last NEZ that was given. The neighborhood was able to work with the city to get that NEZ because our property was not going to be finished developed. I live in East Village. It allowed us to have a 12-year NEZ for the new builds. I didn't profit from it, but that's okay. And not only did it bring in a developer to finish the development, people were excited to move into the neighborhood because of the NEZ. It was 12 years. The 12 years is coming up and nobody has plans on moving. So it was a good draw. And I do want to say that Harry Hepler's projects are always cutting edge. When he first did the motor wheel loft, he used recycled materials for the doors, for everything. It was very exciting at the time. And Brian, I think you would be thrilled with the idea of everything being solar and having the water storage. I know we run our house on solar, and I haven't seen an electric bill in forever. So this is critically important, and it will also improve our neighborhood where I live. It will improve the property values, and it will improve the blight, quite frankly, that has been there for a number of years. You're going to hear things like gentrification. That's nonsense. There's no gentrification happening in this project. In fact, I'm not aware of anywhere in this city you could have gentrification, but I'd be interested in the data. Please. I'd be interested in the data and the proof if there has been such a thing. Having said that, I think this is a model that the city, if we ever have a true vision and a true planning, that we may want to consider doing neighborhood by neighborhood. But what I want to say is I fully support this. The district is really meaningless, but the NEZ is incredibly important, and it will be examined by the State Tax Commission. So you have that safety net on top of it. I think it's a tool we should be using more often, and I'm frankly very excited about it.
Thank you. Next is Amanda Castillo. And Amanda, it wasn't clear what item you're talking about, so just we are on legislative matters, so it does need to be something on the agenda items 2 through 13 on the City Council printed agenda. Otherwise, we will call on you at the second portion. Okay, so we are to the referral of the public hearings. Agenda item 2, the Wheel District.
Okay, those will be moved to Development and Planning.
And item 3, Z10 2023.
Also Development and Planning.
Okay, with that, we are to the consent agenda.
Okay, Vice President Hussein.
First, I would like to, if it's okay with you, remove number 4 and take that up as part of resolutions for action. We do have our candidate tonight on hand.
It works for me. Yep, thank you.
All right, so that leaves us with, since we already moved number 5, that leaves us with number 6, which is a tribute and recognition of the City Human Relations and Community Services Martin Luther King Jr. Memorial Observance. Number 7, outside legal counsel T. Joseph Seward of Seward Henderson to represent the city in the matter of Fitzpatrick versus City of Lansing. Number 8, collective bargaining agreement, Teamsters 243 Clerical Technical Professional Unit for the period covering February 1st, 2022 to January 31st, 2025. Number 9, collective bargaining agreement, Teamsters 243 Supervisory Unit for the period covering February 1st, 2022 to January 31st, 2025. And lastly, the collective bargaining agreement, Teamsters Local 214 Supervisory and Non-Supervisory Units for the period covering January 1st, 2024 to December 31st, 2024. And with that, I would move the consent agenda.
Okay, we got a proper motion in place. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please state by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. All right, motion passes unanimously.
Okay, we are to resolutions for action. We have item 4, the appointment of Heath Lowry to the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Thank you. Vice President Hussein.
Sure. We actually had Mr. Lowry in before the Committee of the Whole this evening. He discussed in his application the fact that he is a resident of the 4th Ward. He actually moved to the city in 2018. He is the current secretary of the West Side Neighborhood Association and staff attorney with the Michigan Coalition to End Domestic and Sexual Violence. Talked a little bit about some of his other educational and professional background, mostly in policy development, planning, that type of thing. His first choice was, in fact, the Planning Board. Second choice was BZA, which this is an appointment to the Board of Zoning Appeals. He discussed in his application the desire to engage the community in decisions, lean into transparency. We certainly appreciate that. He does, in fact, meet the requirements to serve on the board. We did ask him as part of the Committee of the Whole. He actually is a candidate for the Charter Commission. He applied for this particular position in May of last year, applied for the commission in December of last year. He does understand that if appointed and then elected to the Charter Commission, that he would have to step down from this particular board. But he also, when asked whether or not he would continue on in terms of this board appointment, should he not be successful at the election, he said absolutely. And so with that, I think folks were satisfied. We moved the appointment unanimously. And so with that, I would move the resolution.
All right, thank you, Vice President Hussein. We have a proper motion. Do we have any questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor, please state by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. All right, if you want to come on down, Mr. Lowry.
Yeah, face the crowd.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Michigan,
and the Constitution of the State of Michigan,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and I will faithfully discharge the duties
of the office of Board of Zoning Appeals member
of the office of Zoning Board Appeals member
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
All right, congratulations. And then, Mr. President, with that, we are to item 11, the affirmation of council standing committees.
All right, thank you, and I will pass the gavel.
All right, Mr. Garza.
Okay, with that, I make a motion of the affirmation of current council standing committee pursuant to council rule. So these will be keeping the standing committees as is. And with that, I would move the resolution.
All right, there's a motion on the floor. Is there further discussion? Seeing and hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries, and I'll pass the gavel back.
All right, thank you, Vice President. And I will read these committees into record now. So Committee of the Whole, chairperson will be Councilman Garza. Vice Chair will be Councilman Hussein. The Committee on Public Safety will be Councilman Cost as the chair. Vice Chair will be Council Member Pelavanoglu, and the member on that would be Council Member Spatafor. Committee on Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion, we have Council Member Jackson chairing, Council Member Pelavanoglu vice chair, and Council Member Carter as a member. Committee on Personnel, we have Council Member Hussein as chair, Councilmember Garza as vice chair, Councilmember Spatafor as a member, and Councilmember Jackson as a member. Committee on City Operations, we have Councilmember Jackson chairing, Councilmember Hussein vice chairing, and Councilmember Cost as a member. Committee on Development and Planning, we have Councilmember Hussein as chair, Councilmember Brown as vice chair, and Councilmember Garza as a member. Committee on Ways and Means, we have Councilmember Spatafor as chair, Councilmember Carter as vice chair, and Councilmember Brown as a member. And that's it. Thank you.
Okay, then we are to item 12, participation in the Ingham County Treasurer Payment Program.
Vice President Hussein.
Sure. So we actually had our treasurer, Mr. Alan Fox, in the committee of the whole to discuss this earlier tonight. He has actually created a payment reduction program that comports with state statute. And the hope is that we will be looking at a reduction of payments of delinquent taxes due to, or I should say due from persons who have received a poverty exemption from states under state statute. The statute actually allows for 3 different methods to realize this goal, this objective. Our treasurer has decided to use one of those 3 methods, and so that would be the canceling of all interest, penalties, and fees required to be paid. It was asked over and over again whether or not this would impact the city, and it was discussed that these, whether it be fees, whether it be penalties, interest, are county specific, and so that would not actually impact the city of Lansing, our bottom line. In order to be eligible for the program, a city such as Lansing does have to have their legislative body pass a resolution to essentially opt in, so that's what we're doing tonight. So with that being said, I would move the resolution, and this would be for participation in the Ingham County Treasurer Payment Reduction Program.
All right, thank you, Vice President. We have a proper motion in place. Any questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, all those in favor, please state by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. All right, motion passes unanimously.
And we are to item 13, the Natural Resources Trust Fund Grant.
Vice President Hussein.
Yeah, so this actually deals with a couple different acquisitions. The first, and again, we want to thank Brett Kaczynski, our Parks Director, for being here earlier tonight to explain this to us. The first acquisition is the East Kavanaugh acquisition. We're looking at $300,000 from the state with $78,000 in city match. We were told that's a 75 to 25% ratio. City of Lansing is looking to acquire a 0.9 acre property. It's our understanding the owner of the property actually reached out to the City of Lansing requesting that the city purchase this property through the DNR grant acquisition process. Again, this is adjacent to the river trail. This is south of Hawk Island. We did ask a couple questions in committee. Number one, what is the plan for this land? There are structures on site, and so if we are able to acquire this is in the floodplain. What we would do is actually demo those. Those dollars would come from Parks operations, but we would demo those structures and kind of restructure, or I should say restore this back to parkland. And then, I'm trying to think what the other question was. I don't know that I wrote it down. If it comes to me, I'll readdress. And then also this deals with a Waverly Road acquisition. So we're looking at $500,000 for the state with a $130,000 city match. City is looking to acquire a parcel of land that's currently owned by LCCC, which is Lansing Christian Center Church. This would be for the expansion of South Lansing River Trail west toward the Grand River. Again, asked what the plan was. This is essentially to connect folks west of Jolly to South Lansing Extension. There are no structures on site, so there would be no demo or anything of that nature. It was explained to us that this is really the first step in a multi-step process, because obviously we're going to have to acquire dollars, as an example, to actually create the pathway, maintain the pathway, and the like. So with that being said, I would move the resolution of grant acceptance for the MNRTF funds for the Sycamore Creek, Kavanaugh Road, and Waverly Road acquisitions.
Thank you, Vice President Hussein. We have a proper motion. Do we have any questions, concerns, comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please state by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. All right, motion passes. Thank you.
Okay, we are to speaker registration for public comment on city government related matters. That's the yellow sign-in sheet in the back, and if you haven't already signed in, then please jump up in the next minute so that we can get you signed in. And with that, we are to reports of city officers, boards, and commissions.
Vice President Hussein.
Sure. I would move that all items be considered as read in full and that the appropriate referrals be made by you, President Garza.
Okay, thank you. We have a proper motion in place. Any questions, concerns? Seeing none? All those in favor, please state by saying aye. All those opposed, same sign. All right, motion passes.
Okay, we have from the city clerk, the Lansing Comprehensive Annual Financial Report for fiscal year 22 to 23.
Committee of the Whole, Internal Auditor.
We have the auditor's report on internal control over financial reporting.
Committee of the Whole and Internal Auditor.
The Lansing Building Authority Financial Report for fiscal year 22 to 23.
Committee of the Whole, Internal Auditor.
And Lansing Brownfield Redevelopment Authority Financial Report for 22 to 23.
Committee of the Whole, Internal Auditor.
Tax Increment Finance Authority Financial Report for 22 to 23.
Committee of the Whole, Internal Auditor.
Tri-County Metro Narcotics Squad Financial Report for 22 to 23.
Committee of the Whole, Internal Auditor.
And Lansing Entertainment and Public Facilities Authority Report for 22 to 23.
Committee of the Whole, Internal Auditor.
From the mayor, we have collective bargaining agreement, Teamsters Local 214 supervisory and non-supervisory units for the period covering January 1, 24 to December 31, 24. That was actually acted on as under the consent agenda.
Committee of the Whole, place on file.
Sole source purchase, Police Department requests Flock Group is the vendor for license plate recognition cameras.
Ways and Means.
Budget amendment, fiscal year 23-24 second quarter amendment.
Committee of the Whole, Internal Auditor.
Grant acceptance, transformational affordable housing projects.
Committee of the Whole, Internal Auditor.
A grant acceptance, transformational municipal infrastructure.
Committee of the Whole, Internal Auditor.
And Act 1, 2024, purchase agreement, Masonic Temple, 217 South Capitol Avenue.
And Committee of the Whole, Internal Auditor.
And we are to remarks by council members.
Any further remarks by council members? All right, seeing none.
And remarks by the mayor or executive assistant.
No remarks from our executive assistant.
Okay. We are to public comment on city government related matters. Speakers will have up to 3 minutes to speak on items relative to the governance or operation of the city. And the first speaker is Norma Bauer, followed by Luna Brown.
I'm Norma, and I want to thank everybody on the council for your hard work, and especially those who have appeared so often on the committee work, because that's where a lot of work is done, and it's really important work. And I want to welcome our two newest members, and I'm going to say your first names because I know I can pronounce them, Tamara and Trini. And I want to thank the mayor for $500,000, which has been allocated for the City Charter Review Commission, because that could be frittered away over a 3-year period on per diems, and that means there's much less to pay for things like advice from the Michigan Municipal League on how is the transition to be handled, if there is going to be a transition. Are we going to, I mean, obviously we have to stay under the strong mayor system until the voters approve whatever has been proposed. And I find that very confusing, and I don't know that we have any constitutional experts that are going to be elected, because we've still got a couple weeks before they have to have their name even appear on the ballot. So the whole process is very, in my opinion, cumbersome, because I'm an anarchist. But this is a country of laws. Let's see. What do you think the DNR? Yeah, you've already allocated money so you can accept that DNR grant, and you don't know what the costs are going to be. So we don't know how much the Michigan Municipal League is going to charge for very focused advice from qualified attorneys who are nonpartisan on the Michigan Municipal League. So I just hope that when budget comes around, if it does have to go into 2025, you'll pay attention to that item. And I wanted to mention that I find it surprising that motions don't have to have a second to be voted on. That's a new thing, and maybe not everybody in the audience knows that, so I just wonder, because that's what Attorney Swierka told me, and I believe him. And on destruction of that building on just south of Hawk Island, I hope you'll invite Habitat for Humanity to come in and recycle any items before the destruction begins, because we can't just be throwing good building materials into the landfill. That would be a waste. It's not good for the environment. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Luna Brown, who will be followed by Stan Schuck.
Hello, I'm here once again to speak about the warming shelter and the homelessness situation in Lansing. The warming center has been a huge issue since the first press release about its opening. Everything seems to have been it seems like everything was waited until the last minute to just plan and organize the whole thing. No one had a clue what was going on a month or two before it opened, and it's just kind of ridiculous. I was assured by the mayor and the council that there would be no discriminatory practices like the ones we see at the Lansing City Rescue Mission. Since it's publicly funded, they wouldn't be allowed. But already we're seeing that the shelter is divided by gender, with no gender-neutral bathrooms whatsoever, no single occupancy bathrooms to use. There's shower facilities that were promised before the opening. Those shower facilities weren't in use last we checked, but they are communal showers and don't appear to be ADA compliant. So that's an issue as well. And once again, there's tons of issues with it being contracted through the Detroit Rescue Mission when we've had enough problems with Lansing City Rescue Mission as is. It's also a huge issue. You are now requiring people register at an outside facility in order to use this warming shelter when it is a warming shelter, not a actual overnight homeless shelter, which is what you have specifically repeated over and over again in terms of how it's coded and everything in order to allow it to get away with not repairing and completing certain things and not having beds. You're doing it as a warming center, but you're basically treating it like a shelter at this point, which doesn't make any sense. Yeah, and it's also disgusting that you guys bulldozed a homeless encampment over the holidays while everyone was busy and less people would be able to see it on the news. And yeah, free Palestine, get your head out of your ass in terms of the drug policies in Lansing, and yeah, try and actually help the people, and maybe get the mayor in here next time to actually listen to public comments. I know he really doesn't like listening to the people in this city, but could be useful for him. Thanks.
Hey, you guys, it's time for public comment. We will not be celebrating.
Thank you. We are next is Stan Schuck, followed by Loretta Stanaway.
Good evening, Stan Schuck. Got a couple of things to cover real quick. The Masonic Temple deal. When we was going to sell this building right here, I want everybody to think back. They wanted to get rid of this building right here, they could turn it into a hotel, whatever. And the validation or the argument from the city was that the downtown principal shopping district is landlocked. And there's no business having a city hall downtown where it blocks future development and future revenues through jobs or whatever those developments may bring. Last I checked, we're still landlocked. But now for some reason, instead of moving the city hall out of downtown, which was your argument, we're going to move it 2 blocks down with a sweetheart deal for one of the local developers. And just an absolute disaster for the taxpayers, as far as I'm concerned, and the principal shopping district, and all the things that were in your prior argument. I'm going to move right along to the recycling and grants. Posted online, went live, went down South Street to public service, showed the buildings and the facilities that so far our recycle money has bought, from the transfer station and the demolition of the asphalt plant, to the Hoopty building that's now a salt barn, to the other salt barn that was just demolished with grant money, with the recycling grant money that we received from the state of Michigan to help our recycling. We used it to demo an ancient building down at the public service, so we can put a couple of dumpsters down there, a couple of gondolas, and call it the new drop-off site. That won't work. We've done it 2-3 times. It's always been a failure with the public in there. And this is no different. It's just a cover. You drop a couple gondolas in there for a couple of years, well, it didn't work out. And the problem is the recycling is such a catastrophe that we're actually paying the vendor for, 25,000 yards of plastic a year that we don't supply in our contract. And most of that plastic around the country, with GPS units being inserted in them, they're finding out most of it's going right to the dumps anyway. I don't know where ours is ending up, but what a tragedy. And the property south of Kavanaugh, I know it well. And one thing we didn't discuss about all this linear park, where's the maintenance coming from? I never heard anybody discuss where's the maintenance for these future linear parks going to come from when we can't even maintain what we have now, and what's the estimated cost to the contractor? Because surely all of you good union people aren't going to support the city of Lansing UAW employees doing that work, whether it be full-time or seasonal. So where's all this cost coming from? The park's dilapidated budget? Where's it coming from?
Thank you. Next is Loretta Stanaway, followed by David Ellis.
Well, I thought that after all these months, and actually literally years of discussion about having a place for homeless or unsheltered people to go to stay warm in the winter, that we had distinguished between a warming shelter and a warming center, and that we had asked for a shelter, but we got a center. And now I'm hearing that in spite of it being called a warming center, we're requiring people to get signed up with a city rescue mission before they can take advantage of those services. So what this says to me is if for some reason my heat went out, and I'm not homeless, but I can't heat my home, I would have to take a bus for an hour to a shelter, walk a total of 8 minutes to get there, find out once I got there at 9 o'clock at night that I had to register at the City Rescue Mission before I could gain entrance. The City Rescue Mission closes for registrations, I think, at 9 o'clock at night, and there I would be. How would I get back home? Another hour on a bus, another 8 minutes walking in the cold, and nowhere to go to get warm. This is ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous. If I decided I wanted to walk into that shelter tonight to see how it was being run and how many people were utilizing it, I couldn't get in. I would not be allowed to be entering that shelter. I'm a taxpayer. It should be open to the public. It should be open for the media or anyone else who wants to go in without having to have prior permission from a rescue mission or an administration source. Also, how are these people supposed to find out these things? I didn't know. I'm pretty well informed. I see things on the media all the time. I've not seen anything anywhere that tells the people who would be most likely to use this service that they have to go to the rescue mission first to sign up for it. There's nothing on the city website. There's been no public announcements. There's been no press releases. There's been no way for the public to know that this change has been implemented. We have to do better, people. We absolutely have to do better.
Thank you. Next is David Ellis, followed by Sidney Moyer.
Hi, David Ellis, downtown resident. I just wanted to quickly start off by saying I think I had filled it out wrong, but I did fill out a yellow form. I was just wanting to comment on item number 2 to say, I filled it out wrong, that's on me. I wanted to just say I support the neighborhood enterprise zone, and I think that it's an incredibly exciting development that's gonna be happening there. For my main comment, I wanted to talk about the situation in Israel and Gaza and hoping that the city council would support a resolution urging for a ceasefire in the area. I am probably one of the least qualified people in this room to actually talk about the specifics of the situation, so I'm not even going to claim to be able to talk on that. But I did want to address an issue that I had at first, was understanding why Lansing, what is Lansing's role in this? How is this even within the purview of city council to be looking to supporting a ceasefire? Obviously there's residents in the city who have relatives of the area who have died in the conflict even, so it would mean a lot to them. But then also there's issues of, you might think this is unprecedented, that we've never done something like this before. First of all, yes, the city of Lansing has actually signed resolutions supporting or opposing conflicts. That's not new for the city. Our own state representative has signed a similar resolution urging for a ceasefire in the area. I'm losing my train of thought here, I apologize. The neo-Nazis, that's the word I was looking for. There were flyers popping up around town from a neo-Nazi white supremacist group pushing for recruitment. I looked at their website and they were pushing for recruitment in Dearborn, in Hamtramck, in many higher population areas with higher Middle Eastern populations, including Lansing. And I was wondering what they're doing with this. Why are they doing these advertising pushes? And I'm looking into it, and literally on their website, they're pushing for and they're saying support anti-Zionist people in government, which a lot of people might agree with, people who have had relatives die in the conflict. The thing is, they don't care about the people who died. They are pushing against it because they are literal, actual, bona fide fascist neo-Nazis. They use neo-Nazi symbols. They are pushing their advertising in the city of Lansing, hoping to garner support from people who are looking to their government for support and isn't getting any. So please.
Thank you. Next we have Sydney Moyer, followed by Mercury Rose.
I'll keep this brief. I'm here asking my council members today to pass a resolution calling upon the U.S. government to immediately de-escalate the violence in Gaza and impose a ceasefire, as well as the unconditional release of all hostages and the free flow of humanitarian aid into Gaza. I'm demanding that you do the bare minimum in passing this resolution today. Show the Biden administration that we do not stand for this deliberate ethnic cleansing and genocide in Gaza. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Mercury Rose, followed by Michaela Youngman.
Hi, good evening. I have 2 topics I'd like to bring to your attention this evening. One is to ask for you to pass or sign urging the Biden administration to call for a ceasefire in Gaza, allow unconditional aid, and release of hostages with no conditions on those releases. I think it's pretty simple. Like, the stance is genocide is bad. That's what I'm asking for my city to stand up and say, and to urge our government to say, is that we don't stand for genocide. The other issue I'd like to talk about with you tonight is the warming center. We have a crisis in our city around the unhoused population. This warming center is not helping solve it if people can't access it, and it isn't allowing a safe space for many of our LGBTQ populations. Like Luna said earlier, there's only gendered spaces, so if someone's non-binary and goes to that center, where are they going to be put? I wouldn't be welcome there. So I'd like you to really consider how that center is being run and how you're going to move forward with it so that it is a useful space. Yeah, and why is it not clear and more transparent about what's happening there? I didn't know about it until it was brought to my attention, and I also consider myself pretty informed, working with folks from all parts of life. Okay, that's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you. We have Michaela Youngman, followed by J.R. Brenner.
My name is Michaela Youngman, and I want to urge the Lansing City Council to pass a ceasefire resolution for the issues happening in Palestine. Any support that you see or hear in the room regarding public comments have nothing to do with celebration because they are begging and pleading to be heard by their city. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to keep decorum here, you guys, so please follow the rules.
Next, we have J.R. Brenner, followed by David Sutherland.
Hello, my name is J.R. Brenner. I am a recent MSU graduate and a current Lansing resident. I'm nervous to speak today because this conversation is really important to me, and I don't like to speak on anyone's behalf. But then I thought about the two most important people in my life, my two younger siblings. My brother, age 15, is a baseball player and a football player. He's always going above and beyond academically. He's thriving, working for the school newspaper, and I couldn't be more proud of who he's becoming. My sister, age 11, is a softball player who loves to dance. She is incredibly strong-willed, nobody can boss her around, and she's the funniest little kid I know. The only difference between my family and the 2+ million displaced people of Gaza, thousands upon thousands being children, is chance. Thousands of these children have already died. Others are starving, freezing, homeless, becoming sick without access to proper hospital care, fleeing, and more unspeakable harms. There are also many children going through this brutality without their families, who have also died under the brutal conditions. I'd also like to remind everyone here that these are all children who once had dreams, passions, interests, hobbies, and joys, just like my siblings, and just like all of us. These innocent lives deserve so much better. It is too late to bring back those who have been lost, and it is too late to reverse the traumas that Palestinians have faced and are continuing to face daily. It's not too late to put an end to the continuous terrors, and it's not too late to save the lives who haven't yet been lost. To the council, we all have those who we hold dear, and I urge you to pass a ceasefire resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is David Sutherland, followed by Anna Martinez-Hume.
I'm here today because I want to urge City Council to pass a resolution urging the Biden administration to call for a ceasefire in Palestine and end the ongoing crimes against humanity happening there. Thank you.
Thank you. And next we have Anna Martinez-Hume, followed by Kyle Richard.
Good evening. My name is Dr. Anna Martinez-Hume. I'm from Lansing. I'm here to advocate that City Council vote to pass a ceasefire resolution in relation to the unprecedented violence being committed by the State of Israel in Gaza. As you know, numerous cities across the U.S. have passed ceasefire resolutions. I'm an anthropologist and a researcher, and I recently analyzed a collection of these resolutions, and I want to share with you what these communities overwhelmingly stood resolved about. First, U.S. communities lament the immense loss of life in Israel and Palestine, recognizing the profound human rights violations and abuses of international humanitarian law. Community residents have been touched by the violence via anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, anti-Arab hate, and the deaths of loved ones. Communities affirm their core values and commitments to equality, peace, and social justice. and communities overwhelmingly recognize that the U.S. holds great diplomatic power to end the violence. I implore you to recognize that if these tenets are true of other cities across the U.S., they are also true of Lansing, Michigan. To call for a ceasefire is more than symbolic. When every Lansing resident contributes to the billions of dollars that the U.S. has given Israel right now. When Lansing has a long-standing commitment to those fleeing war, violence, and persecution as one of the major cities that welcomes nearly 20% of the refugee community in Michigan. When Lansing has a long history of supporting human rights, when there are countless advocates, alliances, commissions, and NGOs. This very chamber is named after one of Lansing's most beloved community activists, Antonio Benavides, my cousin and the former mayor of Lansing, who stood to protect international migrant human rights in this community. The idea that Lansing does not need to busy itself with international politics is a denial of just how integral social justice is to the fabric of this community. I urge you to pass a ceasefire resolution to begin this new year with the understanding that you, everyone in this room, and everyone in this community that you represent are part of a global world, and we are all deserving of international protection and solidarity. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Kyle Richard, followed by Emily Walkowski.
Good evening, Kyle Richard, 4th Ward, speaking again here for the 3rd time in favor of a ceasefire resolution at the city level. I had a conversation with Councilman Jackson about whether or not this was the right venue for this conversation. And I really deeply appreciate the comments that were just made. But in terms of whether or not this is the right venue, y'all stood up at the beginning of this meeting and pledged allegiance to that flag. This is the local body of our democratic structure. People have been calling the representatives since October, and they're not listening, mainly because they've received a lot of funding from a particular lobby group, which is, not news necessarily here in America. But is this business as usual? 23,000 people dead since October, bombed into oblivion, right? Is this what war looks like? 7,000 children dead in 7 weeks? 7,000 children dead in 7 weeks, more now. With your tax dollars, with your tax money, with the bombs that we paid for and that we gave them. Even if you think that this is somehow a justified war, this is reckless. This is not how war is carried out. You do not bomb people into oblivion and say, oh, this is war. This is self-defense. You don't kill 7,000 children in self-defense. As I said before, I call on this body to pass a resolution for an immediate ceasefire in Israel-Palestine. An immediate ceasefire in Israel-Palestine. And we ought to take it a step further. We ought to take it 2, 3, 4 steps further, all the way to the end. As I referenced at the beginning of this meeting, Martin Luther King Day is coming up. Martin Luther King was one of the greatest socialist thinkers of the 20th century. And Martin Luther King said that Israel's going to have to surrender this conquered land. Israel is a colonial project. People will tell you that Israel exists because of the Holocaust. This is a lie. There are documents from the British Empire that push the Israel timeline much further back. Great Britain colonized North America in the 1700s. Great Britain colonized Africa in the 1800s. Great Britain tried to colonize Asia in the 1900s. And they have continued their colonization efforts in Israel. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Emily Walkowski, followed by Amber Rose Nolan.
this council has a history of not doing the right thing. Many of you recognize me because I've come here multiple times begging you to do the right thing. And I'm here today begging you to do the right thing and pass a resolution calling for an immediate ceasefire in Palestine. In no unclear terms, there is a genocide occurring as we stand here today. As we are all sitting here safe and sound, a teenager is being murdered by carpet bombs. There is an infant on the verge of freezing to death in a tent in Gaza. There are trucks of food trying to get to Gaza to feed starving people that are being blocked by Israel. Less than 10% of the water there is safe to drink. Israel's military is among the most technologically advanced on this planet. They have the technology and ability to execute precise coordinated attacks, and yet they make the conscious decision to indiscriminately bomb hospitals, schools, and neighborhoods, ruthlessly killing and displacing innocent men, women, and children. This is by no means a war. This has nothing to do with so-called terrorist organizations. It is not self-defense. It is ethnic cleansing. It is collective punishment. It is war crimes. It is genocide. For 75 years, Palestine faces genocide with very little support. It wasn't until recently that the general public even knew or cared. And still, nearly 100 days into this aggression, we are begging people to do something, anything within their means to help bring an end to this. As fellow human beings, we owe it to Palestine to use our talents, skills, and privileges to advocate for them to the fullest extent. As City Council, you hold an immense amount of power and privilege compared to the rest of us in this room today. That is why we are begging you to pass a resolution calling for a ceasefire. When you hold power and privilege, it is your responsibility to use it for good. And if you have that power and privilege, and you don't use it to try to end a genocide, what is the point in even having that power? What is the point in us, your constituents, allowing you to keep that power? I implore you to pass this resolution, and don't stop there. Continue to use your platform, power, and position to advocate for Palestine, Congo, Sudan, and all oppressed people. I will close my statement with a reminder to all who are listening. Let these constant tragedies radicalize you rather than lead you to despair. Do not ever stop fighting, and always remember that you must meet your oppressor with equal or greater force.
Thank you. Next, we have Amber Rose Nolan, followed by Peter Fowler.
Okay, hello, my name is Amber Rose Nolan. I am a resident of the Lansing area, District or Ward 4. The first thing I would like to do is apologize for my own shaking voice. Even myself, members of this community, there are friends in the audience now who are on top of the grief we're feeling inside of Gaza, are also facing our own grief from someone passing suddenly. So if I could give a moment to Julia. Thank you. I'm going to cry, I apologize. So when it comes to me, myself, I am a student who has gone to Western for multiple degrees. Kalamazoo has passed a resolution. I'm a student who got my master's degree at U of M. Ann Arbor has passed a resolution. I worked for a decade, winning awards like the Lyndon B. Christensen Award for Education in Social Justice, so that I could be a person who has enough power and voice to speak to you all when there are situations and issues that affect our students, that affect adolescents, post-adolescents, and children. When it comes to people inside of Lansing right now, everyone is facing trauma from this, but our children are facing it worse. And the trauma that they're facing is worse based on every marginalization that they face. So it's not only just our children, it is worse for the children who are of Arab descent. It is worse for our children who are Muslim and of Arab descent. And I know the pain that they're going to face in the future. I know for myself, I was here truly looking exactly as I did during 9/11, and I also had family, cousins, uncles, and aunts who were in countries in the Middle East who were from those countries. And I remember the pain in 2004 when they couldn't come to my own grandmother's funeral to support their children. Sorry, my uncle, to actually have that there. I realize that I'm losing time. I apologize. Let me get back on track. I speak about this because I understand that when it comes to any form of a trauma that is happening, especially a war trauma, there is a lack of connection. There is no sense of belonging. And the National Institute of Health posted from 2000 to 2018, the increase of children's suicide increased double from that time, and that is directly from.
Thank you. Thank you. Next, we have Peter Fowler, followed by Jennifer Grensowski.
Hello, everyone. Peter Fowler, 4th Ward. Here to speak again in support of council putting forward a ceasefire resolution. Since our last meeting, thousands more have been killed. I wouldn't even say the number because it's probably already inaccurate. It's hard to keep watching this knowing that we're fueling it. I've heard council members say that they don't think this is the right venue for this conversation, and I think that's a little dishonest. Michigan is home to one of the largest Palestinian populations in the United States, many of them here in Lansing. You are the representatives. When we say that this is having a real impact on our community, as friends and relatives are being buried under rubble, many are prevented from returning to Palestine from Lansing to visit family. To these people, your silence hurts. And every day this bombing continues, we're seeing a rise in Islamophobia and anti-Semitism here in Lansing. What we are asking is not complicated. Again, we've already drafted something, and I believe you should all have it, correct? Okay. If you don't like the verbiage in that, you can consult one of the other 30 municipalities who have had city councils pass similar resolutions. It shouldn't be very complicated to draft something asking for the United States to stop fueling this. Again, Detroit has already passed a resolution like we've heard. Ann Arbor, tomorrow, East Lansing will be considering a resolution. Lansing's way behind the ball on this, and it's terrible. I know there's good people on council that can put this forward, so I'm hoping you can move on this. I yield my time.
Thank you. Next, we have Jennifer Kurzanowski, followed by Kelsey Brian.
My name is Jennifer Kurzanowski. I'm here today because I'm appalled by the participation of the United States in the ongoing genocide of Palestinian people. For 75 years, we have been forced to fund this ethnic cleansing with our tax dollars, and it's past time we said enough. As elected officials, you have the power to pass a resolution calling for an immediate ceasefire. You can use your political power to formally call for an end to an action, ongoing genocide. Will you do that, or will you be as silent as children are carpet bombed? I've been to protests, and I've seen the joy that people still hold on to. If you've seen the children running around, they don't know what's going on. What is different from them versus somebody in Gaza, versus a child in Gaza? Are you guys gonna sit here? What are you gonna tell your grandchildren? Are you gonna tell them that you did everything you could with the power that you've been given? Or are you gonna say, I don't know, man, I don't know? Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Kelsey Brian, followed by Kimani Hamilton Ray.
Hi, everyone. I just want to point out that I am so excited there's so many people here. It's nice that the city of Lansing is actively engaging in this, and I feel the emotions, and it's someone who, as someone who comes here somewhat regularly, I'm very encouraged by the amount of people that are here. I also call for a ceasefire. I think it's the least you can do. But primarily, I'm here to talk about the Warming Center. Now, I've sent quite a few of you the fact sheet that I gave to people, but I'm happy to send that to others as well. But the Warming Center and our Lansing unhoused crisis is out of control. You all had this funding in July to start with the Warming Center. I can tell you that I've personally been down to the Warming Center twice, once with some of you, and it is a sad excuse for what could be a safe space for some. The fact that you have to go to the City Rescue Mission, which is a ministry, and ministries can be amazing. Like, there can be amazing things, being the hand and feet of Jesus. Like, I cannot imagine Jesus Christ sitting at those doors and be like, you have to fill out paperwork. This is a city-funded warming shelter that is for the city of Lansing. Why are we going through private entities? Like, when I went there, they would not allow me inside. That is despicable. As someone who is very on top of this, and frankly, there's nothing on the city website. Like, you shouldn't have to know the right people to know the right information about this. As far as we know, the city's homeless population has increased from between 300 and 500% in last year. Michigan winter is not a new concept. These people, this situation is not going away. The best thing you can have is to have a safe, consistent place to lay your head at night. And these individuals who are suffering through our unhoused crisis currently do not have that. And that is terrible. I don't understand how people are somewhat indifferent about it. What we understand from this administration is there is a continual commitment to lack of transparency. There are efforts to conceal this. And I, for one, am not going to let this stand. However, I'm a full-time paid community organizer, so I'm able to do this work. The average Lansing resident does not know about that. It is your individual and collective job to continue to push on this issue. It is your job, I implore you, to continue to press on this issue, which I know many of you are. What is happening to our Lansing unhoused property, the encampments, the drugs, the warming center, the ongoing issues, this is deplorable. We need to step up as individual citizens, as a collective, or else this is going to increase and we are going to have more people die than we did last year. Step up. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Kimani Hamilton Ray, followed by Amanda Castillo.
I woke up this morning and I realized it had gone from a week to a month to 2 months to 3 months today since Gaza has been attacked by Israel. Nonstop, day and night, no humanitarian aid, no mercy, no nothing. We just got done with the holiday season. It's not a stretch for me to say that it was one of the weirdest holiday seasons in memory, considering what was on my mind. And that's not the only issue going on in the world, but that's the most prominent one in my head right now. Just because it's so disgustingly apparent that there's no regard for a whole people. And know that my country, my state, my city is either supporting it or not doing anything to condemn it. I've been feeling real helpless. But I think that's not an acceptable stance to take, knowing all that I have, especially considering all that a lot of other people don't have. So I came here today really nervous, but really excited to be able to finally state my piece in front of some people, especially some people with some power. Because I grew up in this city. I know we have a history of supporting immigrants and refugees, all from, wars that were frankly either U.S.-backed or just wars from the U.S. I remember 9/11. I remember trucks going up and down my street, white vans that were surveilling on the Muslims that live in my neighborhood. I live right next to that mosque, right off of Harrison. I remember how scared some of my classmates were. I was only 7 years old. I remember this. And I don't want to go through that again. I think we have a chance to be trailblazers here. I don't want it to be 4, 5, 6 years later and some of y'all saying, oh, we should have probably passed that resolution. Just like people did with the Iraq war when 2008 came around. I really don't want us to do that. So I'm here to urge the city council to pass some meaningful legislation in support of a ceasefire and actions to divest from supporting Israel, such as, maybe like abstaining from using any like shipping or city-funded manufacturing, anything like that we have, that we actually have like a chance to influence. Also, they brought to my attention the issues going on with the warming center. It would just be like insincere if I didn't mention my support of that, even though I just learned about it. We got issues going on here too. I don't want to forget that. And I think they all deserve our attention.
Thank you. Next is Amanda Castillo, followed by Sarah.
Hi, I am also here urging you to call for a ceasefire in Gaza right now. It's always asked of public officials, why'd you decide to run for public office? And what I've always seen is the claim that you want to make a difference in your community, you want to represent the people and what they want. Yet here we are over 3 months into just the latest attack on Gaza, with the global majority begging for a ceasefire, and you, the city officials of Lansing, are still refusing to officially demand a ceasefire. And what this tells me is that you never cared about the people. And it's blatantly clear that you don't really seem to care about the innocent people being massacred in Gaza right now. And instead, you were more concerned with feeling powerful and superior in the seats that you hold. And nobody wants any words anymore. We don't want words, we want action. We want a permanent ceasefire in Gaza right now. Libre Palestina.
Thank you. And our final speaker is Sarah.
I was here at the last meeting, and as has been mentioned, we've seen thousands more people die since then. I feel deeply disappointed that in this time of unspeakable violence, you, the city council members that represent me, and my loved ones here in this city that we adore, are silent. When you decide to do nothing while war crimes and thousands of murdered children's bodies keep piling up, we need you to choose better. We need you to choose to not be cowards in this moment. We need you to take action and pass this resolution calling on a ceasefire. Not only is it part of your responsibility with the power that you have, but it's our responsibility as Michiganders, when Michigan alone has directly given $90 million to the occupation to continue the ethnic cleansing. This is an apartheid state that will only stop its genocide if it's met with international pressure and a halt in funding and supplying the bombs that are taking these lives. History will look back on those who chose to do nothing. Right now, that's all of you. And we won't forget the choices that you make or do not make in this moment. And it's really hard to understand why it is that you do nothing with the power that you have. I wonder if maybe the way that the city treats our homeless neighbors sheds light on how you can look away from human beings suffering. I was there that night when the city bulldozed an encampment on the 21st of December, which is the longest night of the year. The city bulldozed the meager home and belongings that our homeless neighbors are allowed to own. It's cruel. And I don't understand how it is you do this. And maybe it's just that you haven't been bearing witness to the massive grief of Palestinians and how they've been forced to live and die every day for the last 3 months. One particular instance comes to mind of a doctor who's risked his life to care for injured and dying Gazans. This is the moment that he and his family found one of his sons, Yusuf, dead.
Thank you very much. That's,
All right, thank you. Before we move to adjournment, I just want to remind the committee chairs to please get with your committee members and set those dates and times of the committees. I know someone has already done that. Much appreciated. But other than that, and please share that with our office manager, Sherry Bolt. And with that, we are